Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today
No.
No?
Not Watch Mojo.
Are we still doing recordings?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, we're recording?
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to No, not Watch Mojo.
Welcome to Real.
Welcome to Real Deal. Today we're talking about the top 10.
I hate this guy, dude.
I've been watching a lot.
hate
I've been
this guy.
watching a lot of Watch Mojo recently. They're
believe
so
it.
wrong.
What about like just everything?
They're
and
so
always?
their lists are so inaccurate, and I
Mhm.
think they're doing it to make people upset.
Oh.
But yeah, no. Welcome back, guys, or welcome the first time to the Real
Deal.
Podcast.
Welcome in. So today we are gonna be.
I'm Cooper.
I'm Christian.
We still suck at this after 2 years in.
Almost 2 years. It's coming.
Almost, yeah. So we were talking about it recently because I was looking at the dates and I was like, we should post this episode on the day. And Christian's like, no, we'll just do like a little keeping it short or something. This will be
we could also. I mean, we could just add in.
We'll see. I mean, like, but we were
Yeah.
like, because it's coming up on the 27th. That was the first day in 2022 when me and Christian both went to this recording studio and just started doing our podcast.
Man, and I remember the first episode compared to now, just being like
rough audio,
Rough audio.
different mics, different
Mhm.
recording setup. We use like, what did we use?
I don't know. It was whatever the studio had that we were in.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. We didn't really like. No offense to the studio, we love the studio. We love the people that worked with us and collabed with us at the time. But like, it just wasn't like we were new people messing with tech we didn't even know about, and it was just like not. We could have improved, and so we improved on it, and now we got the mics we got now, which we've had for about a year now, which have been crazy, which have been great. No trouble, no issue.
No, and also we get something in the works hopefully for October 7th.
That should be fun.
So come check out the channel on October 7th, please. Don't know what it is, but we got something cooking.
I know what it is.
Yeah, I won't divulge too much into it.
But yeah, how was your? Let's just do a little friendly catch up real quick. What have you been up to, man? School started. We're seniors, dude.
Yeah, you've got one more semester.
Yeah, I'm actually a super senior. Wait, no.
Whoa.
Not like that. Not like that.
Where my hug at?
Where my hug at? Me around no seat. Where my hug at?
Dude, I wish we could be talked to a.
Be on Talk to a.
Yeah,
our friend knows.
Talk to a.
Miss Welch.
Yeah, we should ask. We should be like, get on there.
We should be like, yo, can we like talk to her and be like, listen, if you like, does she like movies? We'll be there.
No, we'll just go on there and talk to her.
We'll ask her like, so what got you on that Broadway street?
Have you seen the clip of her where it's like, yeah, the sweat's got to go somewhere, and she goes, "At your Poochie Banana? What the fuck? Your Poochie Banana?"
I've not seen much of her besides
besides
the video where she goes, I think she said, if you don't wash your legs, you give me the ick. That's all I've seen. But
okay.
You know what? I'm actually very happy for her. I don't know her potentially, but a normie being like famous and that fast and actually doing good stuff with like the money she's making, good for you.
She's perpetuating her fame.
Oops, I bumped the mic. Sorry. Also, as a fellow podcaster, gotta share the love, baby.
Oh yeah, gotta respect it. Gotta respect it.
But yeah, what are your aspirations for the year, man?
Man, I've got none.
Be successful.
Yeah, just get done. I'm trying to pass my classes. I will say, I know it's kind of cringe every time that we're like, yeah, we took a break because it was a hard semester. Not even kidding.
Summer semesters are rough for us.
Yeah,
you don't understand.
Seniors.
Our school, just our school in general, especially for video kids. So this is how I was telling someone today. I was like, listen, spring semester, we're so rejuvenated. We had a long Christmas break. We're going to start doing stuff. We feel great. Summer semester, you get hit with the hardest classes and you're stressed and you're just like, your stuff just sucks for you. And then fall semester, you feel burnout and you're like, I'm motivated to do anything, but you have to do something.
Yeah, for sure. And right now we've got some of our hardest classes to finish.
I'm in like my job setting up classes. So I got like, I'm not trying to get deep into class stuff because people don't know me, but like, it's like I just got to do stuff that's like basically like job prep. Yeah.
So basically, he's just doing it's just like a senior
I want to
showcase.
make these last projects though so tight. But if you guys want to check those out, I mean, it's not out now, but
check out Clips of Cooper.
Clips of Cooper. It's on YouTube. It's attached to the channel here. So if anyone wants to just find some cool like short film content, me and Christian both have our projects there.
Yeah.
Also got Letterboxd. If you like movies, we got Letterboxd links.
Letterboxd.
And
definitely go
I've
check
been
it
watching
out.
a lot of movies. Christian has not been, but I'm trying to keep them up posted. So
listen, I've got to be the heir of be the devil's advocate on the movies podcast.
I'm gonna be like, oh dog, do you remember that one movie I was streaming? Huh?
What?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I love Rebel Ridge. Rebel Fridge.
You got me talking. You got me watching the show we're watching.
Yeah. So I remember. So we're jumping into it. we were watching Hot D, as we call it, which everyone's confused when we tell them, oh, we love Hot D. Yeah, Hot D's the best. Oh, we watch a lot of Hot D.
I like whenever
House of the Dragon.
Cooper tries to come and he's like, "Yeah, let's go watch Hot D tonight." And then someone
And then
comes up and
someone
I'm
be
like,
like, "What?"
he's trying to make me watch his Hot D. I don't know what's
Ew.
going on.
No, so Hot D is an acronym for House of the Dragon. It's
House
a
of the
it's a
Dragon.
prequel show set before the years of Game of Thrones, about 200 years, I think, during the Fire and Blood book series. Basically telling out that whole thing, because Fire and Blood's just one book.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is 5 books so far.
I have read none of the Game of Thrones books. I've not seen any of Game of Thrones, and this is a prequel, so I'm kind of starting my.
I think I got you into
adventure
it because
here.
I was like, when we started, it was just one season. I think the second season had just come out, and I was big into it. And I was like, Christian, you like medieval stuff. I know you do. Like, let's like, you're a big Warhammer guy, and you're like a big like D&D guy.
Don't look over at my Warhammer collection.
I'm like, Christian,
my unfinished paint over here.
Christian likes medieval stuff as I look over at your figurines, but I'm like, dude, check it out. It's gonna be a good show. Like, I think I'm gonna call it Hot D. House of Dragons is just too long. Hot D. We watched Hot Tour.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hot D, I think, is basically just like it's a good starter show for Game of Thrones. One, you also get like more VFX and action than in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a lot more into the story politics of the worlds, and that's something I really liked about Hot D. And honestly, more than probably the action. But for like getting a starter fan, it's one season, or now it's 2 seasons, which we'll talk about. But it was one season. It's like 10 episodes. And great characters, good introduction. It's like a basically like a taste test. If you like the show, you'll like Game of Thrones. If you don't, still try Game of Thrones. It's a great show. But yeah, I mean, initial thoughts, like when you started, what were your things?
I didn't expect to like it, to be honest. I thought I was gonna be more. I thought I wasn't gonna like the politic aspect of it as much as I do.
I think you said you were like, oh, I don't care about that. Like, it'd be boring.
Yeah, I don't care about even like medieval stuff. Like, I'm not a huge I like D&D and stuff, which is weird, but I'm not super big into like super like magical fantasy stuff. In terms of watching it, I like to develop that type of story, but I don't really like to watch other people's stories when it comes to that for some reason. I don't know, but I like that it is kind of grounded. It feels like medieval combat, and it just happens to have dragons there, which is kind of nice,
I guess just like to fill people in who haven't seen House of the Dragon, basically, like we said, it's a prequel show, but it takes place in this world of, overall, it's there's different like lands, but the main place it takes place is Westeros. And basically in Westeros, there's 7 different kingdoms, and they're all reigned over by these great houses. And the great houses, the great house with the dragons is called the Targaryens. Yeah. And they're these like blonde-haired.
Which, you would know, Targaryens from Game of Thrones if you've seen it.
Game of Thrones has just been like a big pop culture thing for most of the seasons. It's definitely, I will say this, it's definitely a mature show. So if you can't handle a lot of like...
same thing with House of the Dragons, by the way.
Yeah, House of the Dragons. You can't handle a lot of gore...
nudity,
sex, adult material, basically. Yeah. It's not gonna be your show. But like, even with it though, like I'm like not bothered by it, because I'm like, all right, great, we saw some stuff real quick, that's fine, let's go on to the politics. Like, it makes sense. It's like time period based.
I like hearing the actors talk about like the crazy shit that they had to go through on set.
Like episode 4, they're just kind of like talking about like, yeah, we were just sitting there, and then all the extras are just like actually doing stuff. It's like, what?
Yeah, they're all actually having sex.
It's kind of gross. I mean, like it's an adult show, but like also like it's an adult themes. It's very like past.
I couldn't imagine my mom watching me act in the show.
Well, the one guy talked about it. That's like in season 2. One of the things he talked about on Jimmy Fallon. He was like, yeah, I watched this with my mom, and she was not pleased. Not pleased. She was just very turned on. Like, it was a quick scene too. He just walked up, went in a room, and walked out naked. Yeah,
and then there's like I don't know. So there's a brothel scene, not to like jump in or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a brothel scene, and I mean, they're all just like actually having sex. It's crazy.
I think they hired adult star actors. Yeah,
they did.
Because they don't want people, like, I will say about that, like, one, it's a European, while it's Hollywood based, it's a European production. So they shoot everything like in London and like in Ireland and stuff. But, or even some in Iceland. But also,
for sure, yeah.
But like, so the no actors are like out of their comfort zone. They, for those background sequences, especially with stuff where it's like, it's been this way since Game of Thrones, they would hire adult actors that would like, that are in that are comfortable with that, because they don't want to hire somebody who just like doesn't. go
thought it
full
was
frontal.
there's a scene where they're walking through the brothel and there's and there's a chick who's just like she's absolutely throating a guy, and I was sitting there.
Gross.
I'm sorry, but we were sitting there watching it,
Yeah,
this
will probably be a more mature
dying.
talking episode. Guys.
I was dying. Yeah.
It was funny.
Mature warning content. Sorry.
We were cringing by maturity. I mean, that's sometimes shows go mature, and you kind of just like and it's. We say this, and it's like it's not all about that. But
no. But there's
I will say
of it.
there's a lot of it. Like if you ask somebody in 2011 about like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, it's like sex, blood, and dragons.
Yeah, I mean it's like the same as The Boys, except it's The Boys is like sex, blood, and superheroes.
Yeah, they copied our formula. But yeah,
true.
But yeah, basically there's a bunch of great houses. They all have different like sigils and stuff, and they all have like a powerful thing. But like especially for this one, the Targaryens are like the reigning kingdoms, and they're the higher ups above the higher ups, and it's because, as you can see in the title, they got dragons.
They got dragons.
And you like the dragons. Like, I mean, like, I don't want to go
yeah.
deep into like all this stuff because, like, you know, in the first season, you only see like maybe 3 or 4 dragons. And then in the second season, you see a lot more.
Yeah.
But like and we might do spoiler talk stuff. So just in case.
Be warned.
Big spoilers. I mean, we're talking about both seasons. So just, you know, if you don't care, keep listening. If you do care, watch the first show and then come back. But yeah, I mean, like the dragons are really cool. I think definitely I couldn't have seen this show coming out before Game of Thrones, like in 2010. The CGI would have probably been not great, but for all the technology that's advanced, they look good, even in daytime fights.
Vhagar looks great.
Yeah.
And she's huge.
Vhagar is the biggest dragon. It's also the oldest dragon, and she is like, I don't even want to like do an estimate. She's like 300 feet long.
I mean, at least she's actually massive.
She's big, and she's just been crazy. And you know, a lot of her shots, besides like one in season 1. She's more like the dark, like nighttime stuff. But then I think when they got more of a budget, in daytime, she looks like perfection. She looks really good.
The dragons that are like in the darker, like the dragon pits or whatever, they all look like. Sorry.
It's okay.
The dragon. Oh my god. Sorry. Yeah, it's like weird. 12 seconds.
Freestyle.
12 minutes. Okay. So the dragons that are like.
You're not gonna take that out.
I probably won't.
Past Christian's too lazy.
Dude,
or future Christian.
That guy hates editing.
Yeah.
But like even in the dragon pit, like Vermithor and stuff, he like is very not illuminated, but he looks great too.
Mm-hmm.
They do a really good job with the dragon VFX.
I just like that about CGI. It's like, you know, when you learn the case, you're like, listen, if you don't got a budget, do it in nighttime because you'll hide most of it. But also like
what they did for Godzilla.
Yeah, even like water or dark, you know, that'll help it out. But I mean, they're just so great. And I think like you haven't seen Game of Thrones yet, Christian. I'm the one who's just watched through it a couple times. It's probably my favorite show of all time, which is crazy because it's like I only really got into it like right before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good show. Like it's great storytelling and stuff. I love medieval things. But like I said, the dragons are a huge piece of this, and I think something where it's like a good balance. This is a good balance. But yeah, I got a couple questions here. I just want to go through it. Season 1, season 2 talk.
And kind of wherever we land is what we'll either call it like a keeping it short or not. I don't know why my mic it looks so quiet. There we go. Okay. Sorry, guys.
So yeah, so like, you know, we were talking about it a little bit, but like, you know, in your opinion, like, what do you think, like, you know, makes the maybe like top 3 notes? What makes the show so intriguing? Talk about the politics a little bit. And I like that. Like literally when they talk about politics, it's like some of my favorite scenes are literally just them sitting around like in the council room.
Oh yeah, the council's really
about,
cool.
Like, war and like dividing factions and like the conflicts of houses and like how you have to be smart and honestly like trust people but don't trust them because everyone's using you for their own gain.
It's pretty cool seeing the cast like really lean into their roles. I think that the queen, she does a fantastic job with like when later when she's in the council and stuff by herself with like no backing from
Allison?
Like the hand.
Yeah,
she does a great job. I really like the approach of like her sons being terrible people. Yeah,
like her daughter's cool. Helena's great, but like Aemond and Aegon, they're just like
I would say Aegon is more
He's more of a fool.
He's a fool. He's
cruel. He's a little cruel.
Yeah.
But like Aemon's after a while,
like actually evil.
Evil.
He's like actually evil.
Yeah.
And the actor who plays him does an absolutely fantastic job of portraying that.
He's great. I would put names in there, but I'm honestly kind of a little hard about names.
I like when the little kids jump. Aemon, very funny.
Oh yeah, in season 1 where they, I forgot like when I watched the scene the first time. I don't think I laughed, but when I watched it with you, I was just like, this is so
it was
funny.
so silly. They were just like beating the shit out of each other.
But yeah, I like that. Favorite so far. I'll just jump into it quickly. Favorite character of season 1.
Who do you think?
Our boy, the king.
Our boy, Viserys.
This guy's tight. Like
I love Viserys.
If you've seen the show, you understand. Like our voices can, like you understand. If you haven't seen the show, Viserys is he's the starter king. Oops, he's the second king.
He's the second king. Yep.
Like the main king of the show in the first season. Like because in the very first episode, he only becomes king because his grandfather, Jaehaerys, basically he lost his sons to like war and illness and stuff. So he had to choose a new heir. And that's honestly like the whole like vibe of the show is that like
choosing an heir,
choosing heirs and
leaving your name in history.
Right. And basically like, he gets chosen over his cousin who was honestly more eligible, but because she was a woman, he was chosen. And he's honestly like someone that really didn't want to be king, but he actually did a great job of like respecting each part of the country and like really taking it into account. He makes some mistakes sometimes, but he's just a dude who loves to sculpt. He loves a little Warhammer collection.
Yeah, he's a little Warhammer collection. He realizes the reverence that being the king gives you and kind of the grace you have to have with it. And also
his plot hole throne that kills him.
Yeah, so he's
this is your biggest nitpick.
He's too
or
peaceful.
Like your hater.
So the story of the chair or
the
whatever.
Iron Throne. So the Iron Throne, just quickly, is like it's when they conquered it because the Targaryens came to Westeros. They conquered it earlier, like 100 years earlier or something, and they took it over with their dragons. And they basically everyone who they conquered surrendered their sword, and the dragons melted it into like an actual throne. Obviously, they sculpted it a bit, but it was melted with the fire breath, and then they made it into a chair, and you can go on with that. But it's a really cool looking thing. If you Google it.
Oh, it's very cool.
Google the Hot D one.
Yeah.
Because the Game of Thrones one is like more of a chair. The Hot D one is like a chair with like
actual swords all the way lining up.
Like fences.
It's pretty cool. Also, the creator of the show said that the House of the Dragon one was the closest rendition to what he was thinking.
Because the other one's like a stacked, like
actually
chair.
like so high that
like
it would
pile
be,
chair. Yeah.
It would be unsafe to be on.
You climb each time, you just cut your hands.
Well, okay. Speaking of, so the idea, I guess. So what I gathered is that whenever you are on the seat is made for a conqueror. It's not made for like years of peace.
Right.
The Iron Throne survives off of war. That's kind of the vibe. But under Viserys, of course, there was like the most peaceful.
He was continuing Jaehaerys' reign of peacefulness. It was 100 years before Viserys, and then after Viserys, or after Jaehaerys chose Viserys and he passed. For 19 years.
By the way, you get used to these names sounding very similar, and us trying to go back and saying...
One of my talking points is that like everybody in the show has, there's like Viserys, Jaehaerys, Lucerys, Aemon, Vaemond, Aegon, another Aegon, Rhaena, Baela, Rhaenys, Rhaenyra, and then Helena. Just literally,
it's hard.
If you just have to like put a face to a name, it's hard.
The biggest thing, the way that I describe everybody in the show is like I'll just use their title.
You just got base, Corlys. You're like hell yeah.
So definitely my boy Viserys. So here's the issue.
His growth is crazy.
Here's the issue I have with it. Okay. His growth is crazy. He does a great job of playing the role. He's amazing.
Paddy Constantine. I know your name, buddy. Love you.
I hope he's listening. Actually, genuinely, he's one of my favorite actors.
Post us on the gram, Patty. Obviously, you're not going to hear us, but if you do hear us,
put us on the gram. But so this throne he keeps getting cut by the throne, and
he gets a little prick on his finger first episode or something, and then he like loses the finger next episode. And then
he keeps
like,
getting infected and like
he looks like a zombie.
yeah, he looks
by
like a
episode
zombie.
8.
And by the way, they did a fantastic job with the
Makeup is
makeup. But they know that it's the throne that's cutting them, and I was like, why don't they have like one guy go in there with a hammer and
Like,
just like hammer all the edges down,
Flatten it out, yeah.
But especially for like the king, like the king's losing
They
body
say
parts.
that what it is that the Iron Throne basically like cuts the unworthy, which is like, well, that's a little bit of BS. Like he's so worthy, but I think it's more like you said, it's more fueled by war. So it's more like it would prefer to have a malice king.
It would rather have a king who's not good at being king, but really good at causing war.
Apparently, one of the kings, I think, I could be wrong. So if someone is a huge, big nerd, or not nerd, aficionado.
If you're a nerd.
If you're aficionado of the Game of Thrones universe, isn't there a king, and it's more in the books because it's not covered in the show, he's like a very malice king. Doesn't he slit his throat on the Iron Throne? Like he cuts himself, like his neck? Maybe. I think he like dies on the chair, but I could be wrong. But I thought that was something because, it's like again, the chair cuts you if you're not worthy. But
It's interesting because like Aegon doesn't get cut when he's on the throne ever.
no, he's like lying on that thing.
Yeah, he loves being like a shitty person. I don't know. Aegon, like, not Aegon the Conqueror, by the way.
Aegon,
please nobody misconstrued that as he should be the heir.
Aegon well, this takes place after Aegon's time. We're just gonna call him Aegon 2.
Yeah. We can call him the bastard. JK. We know who the real bastards are.
Oh yeah.
But
I
it's
don't know, man.
crazy.
I think their genes are pretty strong.
True. Quite strong genes that they have. I hope people who watch
dye
Hot
his
Deer
hair yellow.
Yeah, I mean, literally, or like shave their heads. Okay, so basically with Viserys, the idea is the throne kills him because he wasn't worthy for it, ushering in an age of not peace. But like, I don't know. I think that's kind of just dumb. I understand it's a smart literary device. It's a good literary device.
It feels like
but like
we call it in film school the Ruby Dagger.
Yeah, the Ruby Dagger.
Yeah,
but like, it doesn't need to be. You know what I mean? Like you could have had anybody. You could have had anything happen.
I will say, I think in Hot D, besides when they start pursuing the throne, it's less of a big story beat compared to like Game of Thrones. That throne is important, but like in Hot D, it's more just in general like house debates, like honor and loyalty among different houses.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. So our boy Viserys names his daughter Rhaenyra, queen, after he cannot have an heir with his first wife. And
his original heir, Daemon, his brother, basically is not a great choice. He's a little arrogant. He's a little arrogant, violent.
He becomes a little crazy.
He's probably my like in the top 5 for me of other favorites.
He's so cool.
He's so fun.
Yeah,
Matt Smith does a great job.
I love Matt Smith so much, and he plays that role so well. And then he gets crazy.
I like that some characters stay around. Like I get why like some of the younger characters get like there's like time jumps in this show, and some of them age up. But I like that like Patty Constantine. I forget the name of the guy, but the guy who plays Otto Hightower, and then Matt Smith's Daemon, like they all get to say the same because they're more older, I guess you would say, but they're great. And like Daemon's just like this. You love his energy. If anything, you're listen. I'm not really agreeing with the things he's doing because he does some pretty vile, like messed up stuff, and like even the second season. But he's just our boy.
Yeah, I mean he's weird. He's a weird guy.
In the beginning of the season 1, he has one pursuit.
Yeah,
it's a gross pursuit. We didn't talk about it, but
so speaking of that, blood, dragons, and sex.
Yeah. So apparently, in the Game of Thrones universe, mainly in Hot D,
mainly in the Targaryen bloodline.
Yes. So the Targaryens are from Valyria, which is a different country, and obviously they want to have the most purest thing. So most of the time, sometimes they don't. Most of the time, they reproduce with each other. So cousins, sisters, brothers. It's a big incest pool. But
it's weird.
It's weird, but I think like once you start to watch the show, you go like, I'm kind of okay with this.
No, bro.
No,
at no point was I like, oh, yay, they're together. When it was like an uncle and a nephew or niece, or like a brother and
they had to have
daughter.
At least like half blood. Like I'll be like that's I know that like that's the story where it's going, but it's like come on, bro, give me like something.
The lower value members of the Targaryen house are basically pieces to trade to get like other houses to like band with them because whenever Targaryen marries in, one, you get a dragon usually, and two, if you don't get a dragon from them, you get one from their child usually.
Yeah.
It's basically a chance to like
having Targaryen blood makes you
up.
a huge bond with dragons. I would have to like do some research on like what that really means, but like for some reason, and we talk about some other houses, like the Targaryens are big on the dragons. They have a bond with the dragons. And then like this other house, the Velaryons, which is like the second biggest house besides the High Towers, their thing is like navy and ships. High Towers, basically, they're like more like the most powerful house in Westeros before the Targaryens, but they've been like big time like political like outlandish people. Like they're great. No, they're not great. We don't like the Greens.
We don't like the Greens. I don't mind Otto Hightower.
He's a good
He's a good like anti-hero.
You don't really like him in season 1, especially like when like the 9th episode drops. He's just kind of like, I think it's time for us to make a coup. But the thing I really respect about this universe, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, all of it, is that people are not good or bad. Everybody is mainly gray because everyone is fighting for themselves, and because the show shows you they spend time to show you these different perspectives. You are on both sides of the war basically, and you can understand it, and so you don't necessarily like hate a character for doing what they do unless they are purely good or evil. And
like
normally
Aegon.
if you're purely good or evil, you're punished for it.
Yeah, Aegon or Aemond. They're kind of Aemond especially is definitely bad. He's definitely
bad.
like
Viserys is like good.
Yeah, Viserys is good. Aegon's like he's not bad. He's just dumb.
He's dumb, and he also has like grown up his entire life to basically be like this pawn to like for the High Towers to take over.
High Towers,
and then basically like he never got the love from his mother.
He got the generational trauma from his mom and
his
Otto
dad
Hightower.
Also like was not around much because he didn't really, Viserys only loved his one daughter.
Yeah. Viserys named her heir and did stick to that until death. And of course, the show's got to have its fuel for the war. So even when the queen like thinks that like, oh, he's talking about my son,
like on his deathbed, he gets real sick and he starts talking about
the
this
song
prophecy.
Fire.
Yeah, and so she's like, oh, she said my son's name, Aegon. That means he chose him,
but he meant Aegon the Conqueror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there. We were sitting there, and I was literally like, "No." I
had to be really quiet because there were some great scenes in there, and I literally and Christian like called a couple of them, but some he didn't, and I was just like, "No, shut up! Like, just keep watching." And then he'd be like, "What?
Yeah, what? I hate her." And then the next episode, I'd be like, "Oh, I understand."
I think my favorite reaction with you was when you were like, I wonder what's going to happen. And then Viserys comes into the throne, and that 4-minute sequence of him just like, like basically just like picking himself up to walk on the throne.
Well, it was like every other house versus Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And I was
also,
like,
she didn't have a strong claim.
Yeah. I was like, this
joke
sucks.
There, but.
Yeah, well, the strong claim. So she had 2 bastard sons before she was married, during while she was married.
But her husband was gay.
Yeah. And also, by the way, they got me with that too, where they.
Whoa, he's gay?
No, not that one. They got me because they staged his death, and I was like, oh my god, they just went in and killed him. Silent. Why did they do that? He was so cool.
And then you see, it's like, oh, he just shaved his head.
Yeah, he just shaved his head. Thank God. And he got to run away and be happy, and I was happy that at least one character got to escape and be happy.
Well, until you find out that in season 2, dragon bonds they only break when someone's dead. So off screen, he's probably dead.
Yeah, because what is it, Moon Dancer or what's his dragon's name? Sea Smoke. Yeah, Sea Smoke bonds with another person.
Yeah, dude, that house
some
just
random dude.
So unlucky.
Yeah,
you started out with a great people, very rich, and then like Rhaena and Corlys's daughter, or Rhaenys' Corlys's daughter, Baela. She has a miscarriage and she basically chooses to go out in dragonfire.
Draconis.
What is it? And then
it was Vhagar, right? Vhagar's a dragon.
Vhagar's a dragon. And
I felt bad because Vhagar was like,
basically just like everyone in that house is like, unfortunately, like doomed to die because they have just like they keep siding with the Targaryens, and basically it's like you're basically just picking bad luck. Like everyone's getting pieced off.
Well, everybody's doing it because the Targaryens are the strongest house, and
so another question I'm talking about. So in each of these episodes. Maybe like every 2 episodes it happens, but like, there's at the end of it, there's like a time jump. Cause like in the first half of the season from like episodes 1 through 5, we have younger cast for some of the main characters. Like Rhaenyra and Alicent are played by different characters, and even like some like the Velaryon kids are too. But then by episode 6 through 10, we have a new cast, which is also like our main cast in season 2. Like, what are your thoughts on the time jumps? Did you like them? Are there any like issues with that, or like what?
I didn't mind the time jumps, especially because it was like, all right, this is when Rhaenyra is in her like her hoe phase almost. And also, like she's in like her like I'm gonna be free phase,
ruining Kristen Cole's honor, making him a big simp, and then he's now like a huge like
that's his fault.
He's
bro.
a huge cuck. He's like
I hate him so much.
I hate you. You ruined my honor. And after like 20 years, he's like, I still can't hold you that one night.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's crazy because he could have said no and walked away. He could have. He didn't have to do that.
She was thinking of her uncle the entire time.
Dude, literally. Okay, so.
And she drank the milk of the poppy.
Yeah, true. But I don't mind. Not at all do I mind the time jumps. I think they're needed.
I think they work for what it is. And like I like.
Also, all the actors are great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Millie Alcott as Rhaenyra is great. I think seeing her transform into Emma D'Arcy's character, who's the main Rhaenyra, the older one, it works because you're like, she's this younger, naive one who's still ambitious, and then you realize when she becomes like a woman, she like is more mature, she understands, but she still has that youngish like kind of like immature side to her.
I think that Allison's actresses, so the queen
Elizabeth, no,
well, she has what, 3 actresses?
2, just the young and the old one.
Yeah, hers look very good.
So they did a
great
they
casting.
casted the main actors first, the older ones, and then they casted the younger ones
based off of the main actors.
So good.
Yeah, I think hers looks absolutely the best.
Oh, Olivia Cook and Emily Carey.
Yeah, they did a really good job with casting there. But I will say, I don't think there's a character who gets aged up where I'm not like, oh, that's that person. Like, I understand who that is.
I think the only one was like, because we see 3 versions of Bela. And the first one was when they were trying to set her up with Viserys.
Yeah, true.
That was gross.
I loved Viserys because
he didn't want to do it.
By the way, this is medieval times, so she's like
14,
and he's like 35,
wife,
and he's like, "What in the world?"
His wife just died.
Yeah.
No, he was like 30, 32.
Yeah, he's like 30.
But
yeah.
still, that's like half his age. So basically, his wife passed, and everyone's like, "You're the king. You need a successor." And it's like, what you need to do is marry the best house. And obviously, like,
he's like, "Can I not just grieve for like 2 seconds, please?
My wife and son are dead.
My wife and son are dead.
I will not have these feasted by crows
like vultures."
But basically, like, yeah. So basically, they're like,
Love
"Hey,
Viserys.
here's a suggestion. How about you marry my 14-year-old daughter?" And even we're watching this, we're like, "What?"
Yeah, we were like, "What in the world?" And then I love Viserys also being like,
he's also
what?
like, "I don't
No.
like this idea," and so instead he marries a 15-year-old girl.
And then he waits a year. He waits
does.
a year to
It's medieval times. You have
a
to
daughter.
kind of like listen. I get it. It's
Or son. He's a son.
these times are harsh. Did you? There was a meme going around about it. It was like, "Wow, Allison's a 32-year-old grandmother. Good on her."
True. She is a 32-year-old grandmother in story.
Because her kids are like 16 to 18 in the current storyline, and so they had a kid when they were like 15.
By the way, I love Otto Hightower specifically. I like his rise and fall and rise again, and then fall again and rise. He
keeps like, you know, he has self-ambition, but I think now that I like have rewatched the show, I keep seeing him like, honestly, like, he's not trying to be super self-ambitious, but like his house wants him to be.
Yeah.
And he like understands that, like, you don't know these characters yet in Game of Thrones, but he's a real Tywin Lannister type. You'll understand that when we watch the Game of Thrones, and we'll probably talk about that, you know. But that one, like BoJack, we might want to do season by season.
Maybe do
2 seasons.
We might do season by season or 2 seasons.
Because 2 seasons is 8 seasons total. I could see that happening.
I could see that being fine. That would probably be
but
okay.
Basically,
but it also we already don't like really have a schedule. It might be just something where we like maybe one day we talk about each season just all the way through.
He's a person who puts his family first against the whims and wishes of its patron. Like, he cares more about his house than his family. Although I think when he starts realizing that even his own house doesn't love him and like disrespects him and doesn't give him the honor, like, he realizes like things were better with Viserys. Yeah, he starts to appreciate his daughter more for at least trying to hold the house together.
And he also appreciates his daughter more as like a person, because he was definitely using her more as a pawn. Yeah, and kind of training her for the day that Viserys could be open to marrying her.
Yeah. I will say, like, my one note on the time jumps is sometimes very little, because like they do a good job of telling a great story. Like storytelling and writing is probably the best piece of the shows.
Like, how do we get here?
Is like stuff will be like happening, and then you have like a 5-year time jump or like a 10-year time jump, and I'm like, what happened over the 10 years?
Yeah,
and
true.
they kind of explain a bit. Like stuff gets explained, but I'm also just kind of like, I feel weird about jumping 10 years, but
at no point though was I like, this makes zero sense. Like a lot of the stuff that they just
to explain the time gaps.
Anything that they didn't, it wasn't super pivotal to the point. I don't think, like, to the actual like overall
I'm not
plot.
kind of like, when did Damon and Bela move to Pentos? I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
they're in Pentos. I understand they want her done. Like, we hear her be like, I want to go back home. That's enough for me to understand that, like, she doesn't like it here.
And that also lets us know that, like, her being there means that she's not very free in general. So.
I think overall, like, I mean, we can do it like at the end, but it's like, I prefer season 1 to season 2 because it's just a great setup, a great job of introducing new characters, and also, like, you know, personally, I think my favorite episode is episode 8. When they have like the whole thing where Viserys comes to the throne room. Yeah. But I do like episode 9 where, like, generally we don't see anyone on Team Black, and it's only this conspiracy part of Team 9 or like Team Green, like after his death. And I think that is just a big setup. So, like, you know, after like episode 9 and 10 are like building up to the conflict of the finale. So the finale, if you want to talk about it a bit, is like Rhaenyra gets told her father's dead by Rhaenys, who was in court at the time, but then she was locked away. And they said the Greens, so at this point, the Greens and the Blacks are basically like the Hightower family and the Targaryens, like true blood Targaryens. And it's Rhaenyra versus Alicent. You know, they had this friendship at a time, but because of, like, honestly, both sides. Like, for Alicent, she didn't like Rhaenyra because, one, Rhaenyra was dishonest and was flaunting around and kind of just living lavishly, while Alicent's a very pressured character. And we can talk about it a bit more in season 2. But, like, she was always trying to do her bidding. She was always trying to, like, be...
She was being used. She was being used by her house. She was being used by her father.
She was told by her father to marry the king. Yeah. She bears children so they can be heirs to succeed Rhaenyra.
I'm glad, though, that she did love Viserys. She didn't...
She loved his Warhammer sculptures. Dude.
She did. She loved his little sculptures. You know what? Maybe I'm on Team Green. No, but... Is it
because she's hot?
I mean, she is hot.
She's another redhead.
I mean, the whole cast is...
Very good.
The whole
looking.
adult cast is very, very.
They have
hot.
They have European good looks.
Yes, yeah.
We have dirty American looks.
Dirty American looks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree though that season 1, episode 8 is my favorite. I love the
impact of it.
I love seeing Viserys stand up for, one, his heir, and 2, getting to see him back in the fray for a second.
Even in that season though, like in that whole, we see so much because we see conflict at the beginning. We have tension where it's like Corlys Velaryon is
a guy get beheaded,
very wounded, and his brother, who has every right to be. Like, the thing is, like, while I don't like Vaemond, he had every right to fight for his claim. But because, you know, Rhaenyra is like our POV character, we're out here like we can't have her lose. Like, she could be like outed and lose everything, and that's not what we want. And then we see Viserys stand up for her, and we see conflict between the Greens and the Blacks. And then, you know, we see the great scene with Viserys, and we see some action and with the decapitation. And then we even have that dinner scene. That dinner scene at the end is a great time where it's like Viserys finally had a time where everyone was not fighting. Because for the whole season, it's been like conflict, either in battle or in court or in just family. And Viserys was like, listen, do an old man some justice and love each other because you're family.
Yeah, and
at the end of the episode, besides when he spouts out the nonsense and the dream and stuff, Alicent and Rhaenyra were ready to be friends again. And she said, you would make a great queen. And then just because of a misunderstanding, everything went to shit.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I love the, like, Alicent still had that hope that she was right in what she did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, speaking of season 2, I think the next, if you had to give me an episode in season 1 that I like the most, it would be episode 8. In season 2, what's the episode where it's Rhaenyra, like, goes to Alicent and she's like, no, this is what he meant.
3?
I think it's like 3 or 4, right?
It's like right before.
They're in the temple together.
3.
It's 3? Okay. That episode I like a lot because then we get, Alicent realizes she was wrong.
Yeah, your face.
And she caused the war.
Because right before, like, I remember watching it for the first time. I remember him talking about it, and she's like, he didn't say your name. And I'm generally like, tell her that's not true.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thinking like they might not even say that, and I'm like generally getting like frustrated with the show, and then they go like, he started talking about like the dream, and she goes, what? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like cheering. I'm like, the dream. But basically, like, yeah, I love, honestly, like, I love the dragons, I love all that, but generally I'm such a simple man. Please me with some good political talk, and I'm game. But the finale. I'm gonna talk about the finale of season 1 first, so because it's like a big setup for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the finale is basically like Rhaenyra hears of the death, and in episode 9, so the High Towers have as much influence as much on the kingdom. They do a rushed coronation for Aegon, who is Viserys and Alicent's first son. And since like episode 3, there's always been like debate and conflict of like, well, he's a true male heir, and the whole thing we see in the show is that people in the country will probably lead more to a male heir because it's just what tradition is. Mm-hmm. But is tradition better than what's actually truly right for the company and for the country?
I also really like the rush coronation stuff. By the way, I want to say poor Aegon because
he wanted to just sail away and get drunk.
He wanted to sail away and have fun and and he was like, if Rhaenyra's queen, I get to do whatever I want. And of course, the High Towers had firmly believed that when Rhaenyra became queen, she was going to kill all of her brothers.
She wouldn't.
She wasn't going to do that.
She loves everybody.
But also, yeah, she loves them from afar, like their family. And also with Targaryens, like family's pretty important. But it's crazy to me that they went through and every time, poor Aegon, like I said, poor Aegon, because every time he did anything that was out in the public, it always had like a bad omen. Like his coronation, there's a dragon that comes out and kills a bunch of people and flies away.
Yeah. The rat catchers in season 2.
The rat catchers, which he overreacted, of course, but also his child died.
Yeah.
His child was assassinated by Daemon.
Because in the finale,
not on purpose by Daemon, but by Daemon nonetheless.
I'll heat up the finale. So basically, they find out some stuff, and now it's all out like planning before battle stuff, where it's like you gotta pick who's your allies. So the Greens are kind of chilling in the back because they just got a whole episode, and the Blacks, Rhaenyra's side, is like, we gotta send out, we gotta talk to like the Starks in the north, the Baratheons of the south, like we're not gonna find the Lannisters. It's like the Lannisters are kind of like these douchey rich guys. And
I also like that with the split, you're like, oh man, like they're not the Blacks can't possibly win the whole. Everything because they have dragons.
Well, even for the Blacks, like they both sides have dragons, so it can't just be an even square fight. The Greens have at least 3 dragons, and they have the biggest dragon. The Blacks have they have some people undeclared. They have like a fighting chance, but ultimately like they need the bit of advantage of more men.
Yeah.
And while we see in season 2, men don't matter. It's all about the dragons. Like at least in preparation, you're like, I need supportive, because also it's not just support of fighting men, it's support of country. If your country doesn't support you, who cares if you can conquer them?
Yeah. It became more like it was interesting for the first time, kind of to go through the final episode. They go through and they're setting up for war. But what I found interesting in season 2 is it's the first time in like 100 years the kingdom has had a keeper of secrets. And then also, funnily enough, Rhaenyra also basically has a keeper of secrets, but it's for the common folk.
Right.
The White Worm.
Because the Greens used the White Worm. She's a secret teller inside King's Landing. King's Landing is basically the, it's like the New York of the country.
She had a little thing with Daemon for a while.
But she's basically the spy teller. And there's a whole council and stuff on both sides, and they have these different positions like Master of Laws, Hand of the King, which is like the advisor, Master of Coin, Master of Ships, Master of War, Grand Maester, all that. But basically, the Whisperers are, whatever. And the White Worm was helping the High Towers at first to spy on the Blacks.
And then betrayed her.
But then they betrayed her because they were like, you're beneath us, you're a common person. And she willingly, in season 2, chooses Rhaenyra because she knows that she's right for the people. She lets her go. And also, because they do a little smooch. But
they do make out.
But then kind of on the Green side, as he's so good. Larys Strong, who is
what's his
actor's name?
Yeah, what's his actor's name? The actor,
he's so good.
He's so fantastic.
And again, I'm seeing Game of Thrones. He's a Littlefinger type, where you'll understand what that means. He's a huge player who honestly like doesn't have much strength. He's a cripple. He's a crippled character, but his mind is his weapon.
Yeah, I like that he's trying to.
His name is Matthew Needham.
He did a great job.
Good actor. He don't like how he likes feet.
I don't like that there's a scene of him joinking it to
doing
the queen's foot.
his business to a woman's foot. Yeah,
but also
it's like a weird
you know,
like foot trauma.
It's weird, but it's interesting because like we see him become a player, and not only does he have a great screen
but he's
presence,
more of a player for. I
Aegon.
would say in season 2 he's more of a player for himself, and you know because like even when he's helping Aegon, he does it more for actually like you know building himself up. He portrays his family. He kills his family to take power in support of Alicent for pure just personal interest.
And it's interesting because he's probably one of the most ruthless characters besides Damon.
I'm more scared of a calm man than an angry man.
True,
because he has a plan. He's more precise, and he's scarier because he's not unpredictable. He's predictable, but he won't let you know what's going on.
Yeah, and he like starts. So there's a battle that happens where Aegon gets
really burnt.
So in by his brother.
So we keep going back very quickly. Season 1, chooses sides. Rhaenyra sends out her sons. One of her sons goes to talk, and there's this rivalry between Aemond and the son. His name is Lucerys. Basically, when they were kids, they had a fight, and he cut out his eye. And Aemon's always been very vengeful and wrathful, and that basically was like his curve for being this hateful guy. And he's always teased Lucerys about it and has always kind of bullied him. And this time, though, he was messing with him with their dragons and scaring him. And he wasn't trying to actually hurt him, but, you know, humans, you know, while the dragon riders are like supposed to be control, they're still beasts, wild animals. So it accidentally kills him. And basically that is the trauma and the first, like basically the real first act that kicks off the war.
It's the first blood.
You drew first blood.
A son was taken.
And now a son is taken, and Rhaenyra has to like get her revenge. And so even in the first episode of season 2, it's all about the conflict, and then it's her. Because what I respect about Rhaenyra is she isn't just a straight vengeful person. Although they took her son and she has to grieve and mourn, she doesn't immediately go, I'm going to burn down this city and I'm going to take what's mine. She's not that kind of person. She is her father's daughter. She has so much in Viserys in her. But Daemon is a wild card. And so he's like, listen, they killed my son, my stepson. I'm going to get one of their sons. So he sends some rat catchers out, and they're like finding
They're supposed to kill
they're supposed
Aegon.
to kill Aemond.
No, they're supposed to kill
Aemond.
It's not Aemond.
They were going to kill Aemond.
I thought it was supposed to be. Is it not Aegon?
They wanted to kill Aemond.
They're not going to be able to kill Aegon.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I think they're going to kill
I don't know
Aemond.
why Daemon thought that was going to work.
I guess he was like, kill Aemond, and if not, son for a son. So they don't find Aemond, and so instead they find Jaehaerys too, because he's a baby.
Yeah.
He's the son of Aegon. Aegon and his sister, Queen.
And his sister.
But basically, Jaehaerys and Jaehaera are twins. Crazy names. But anyway, basically the rat catchers kill his heir, his son.
They cut off his head.
Yeah.
And he's like 3 or 4 in the show. It's awful.
Yeah, it's and the sound design's gross. But I mean, honestly, like it's effective and whatever. But you know, basically like that's drawing second blood. Now the sides are basically like there's no redemption.
No, yeah.
And yet still Rhaenyra tries to
Rhaenyra tries to hear them out.
She gets mad at Daemon. She goes like, you've made me look so bad in front of everybody. Go to Harrenhal, which we will talk about Harrenhal.
Oh man, but we might have to like speed through Harrenhal honestly because it's so crazy.
Because in season 1, the conflict between Rhaenyra, it's not conflict, really the tension between Rhaenyra and Daemon is that they truly love each other, and they are destined for each other in a sense. But
uncle and niece
stuff had, stuff had come between them, and you think. Even in the finale of season 1, where he puts the crown on her head, that's one of my favorite moments of season 1. It's such an impactful moment. But, you know, he still is himself. He still has this backwards thought where he kind of is almost influencing his own reign.
Yeah.
His own, getting back the throne that he lost.
He thinks that his brother which is crazy, by the way. If you watch the show,
in season 1, you'll see generally mourns his brother.
Dude,
in season 2 too.
Jaehaerys. Viserys. I'm sorry. There's Viserys.
All the names are
Jaehaerys,
sucky. They suck. The
but
names suck.
Viserys, the old king, the one that died on the Iron Throne.
OG.
He loved Daemon, like actually loved him the same way you would love your brother, and it hurt him that his brother would, one, make fun of his child who died, but two, that's the reason he ultimately chose Rhaenyra.
More for anger of his brother, basically just not loving him.
Yeah, and Daemon thinks that he was unloved, and so unloved in fact that he named Rhaenyra heir. And it's just, that's one of the only things where I'm like, that's an insane. He's crazy for thinking that.
He's more in his own head about it.
Yeah, he actually is the biggest player in his own brain.
He's not even crazy yet.
Yeah, he's not even crazy yet. We're not even talking about Harrenhal yet. By the way, poor Caraxes. We stand with Caraxes.
Caraxes is probably my favorite dragon.
I
don't know. I like me some Vhagar. Vhagar is the coolest looking dragon.
Vermithor's pretty cool.
I'm gonna stick with Caraxes though. Caraxes is my boy.
Caraxes, he's a sweet boy. I think Caraxes is probably one of the cutest
snake.
little dragons. He's so silly. Poor guy sits at Harrenhal for like what, a month?
Yeah,
2 months.
Basically, in like episode 2 or 3, Rhaenyra ships out Daemon, and they have their conflict is basically like, you know, they were strong when they were together, now they're separate, and so he goes to Harrenhal, which in basic terms, Harrenhal is basically this gigantic kingdom that's now turned ruin.
That was burned down by
the dragons a long time ago.
By Vermithor, right?
No,
not Vermithor. From
Balerion.
The biggest dragon ever.
The biggest and first dragon.
Yeah, very cool.
But that was like very, very long ago. But basically, Daemon goes, and instead of raising an army for Rhaenyra, he raises it for himself. But what he didn't realize when he gets there is that this place is basically cursed. It's Scooby-Doo antics, scary looking.
He just goes crazy over season 2.
Will go to sleep, have a crazy dream, and mess with his mind, and then wake up like
drinking at the table, talking to diplomats.
Yeah,
like,
everyone
it's
will
insane.
be like, he'll be like sitting there, and then you'll hard cut, and he's like, what? Like he basically gets roofied for like 2 months straight.
And like he'll like
he wants to leave.
Yeah, it's crazy. He tries to leave. He keeps getting brought in back by like a witch or something.
She keeps convincing him, you got to stay. And he's like, I just want to go home.
He like there's like a dream where he like fucks his mom, and then his mom's like dead, like she's like dying or something, and bleeding out.
That's a crazy statement, but that is in the show.
It is crazy. He has like really bad mommy issues. It's weird.
It's because his mom, he thinks, because he never really knew his mother. I think his mom, died when he was young. But basically, like in his mind, he's thinking that he's like the best and he's worthy, and he has mommy issues and just all that. It's
basically bad. Homelander if he was good with swords.
Yeah. Homelander if he had long blonde hair and
JK,
good with swords.
I think that he's a lot more sane than Homelander. But like when it comes down to it, we see him just like degrade into like a madman for a little while. And
but he also like learns his lesson though with the dreams. Like with any dream he had, I would say his dreams with Rhaenyra.
Oh, he sees the Song of Ice and Fire, by the way.
Yeah, so because he has a couple dreams. He has dreams with Rhaenyra, and I think those ones are more pushing him away at first, but like a good footnote where it's like look at all the bad things you've done because of your own pursuit, and then he sees ones that I think more effectively are of his brother, because he loves. I think honestly he loves Viserys more. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could debate it, but I think he loved Viserys more than he loves Rhaenyra because that's his brother.
I think so as well, and I also think that Rhaenyra is a piece of him. Yeah, I think it's a piece that he can hold on to.
That's what he kind of holds on to.
But I will say also, I feel like when he's going through his like weird, crazy phase, it's like almost like past, present, and future. He has to deal with like all of his issues. Like
because we see
his mother, his brother, and young Rhaenyra.
Young Rhaenyra play, which great to see a cameo from both Patty Constantine and Amelia Alcott.
Great job.
I think that's gonna be their last time coming back. I mean, who knows?
I don't know. I want Viserys to come back one more time.
Give me one more Viserys quote or something. But good to see them again, because I didn't realize. I just would have never comprehended that, because flashbacks aren't a huge thing, but to see it in this, I'm like, hey, I like those characters. They kind of got their time cut too short, but glad to see them back.
Yeah, and I mean, great job to everybody who was on the show. The whole
production team, VFX, all of it.
Oh yeah, fantastic. And I mean, I couldn't have been easy to do all the VFX in a timely manner to make them also look really
From
good.
season 2 to season 1, it was like a 2-year turnaround.
And like where Vermithor's like So we'll talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about, the Vermithor scene where he's just everywhere. That had to have been awful. That had to have been awful to do. But when we're going through and we're looking at like the future, and then like, so the present stuff is current stuff he's doing with Rhaenyra, which is, I think that marks whenever young Rhaenyra shows up.
Yeah.
He starts dealing with his current issues, and then the future thing is the Song of Ice and Fire. He sees. By the way, the Song of Ice and Fire is Aegon the Conqueror had a dream.
Yeah.
That like
so basically he had a dream about that every living person needs to come together to fight the dead. The dead are basically
it's what happens in Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones, the White Walkers. They're an ancient frozen dead, basically frozen zombies.
Yeah.
Are from the north of the wall, past this thing called the wall. When we get to Game of Thrones, it's way more important. They are going to one day, who knows when, come in and they have to fight the living, and the living must screw all their own politics and stand together to fight for the greater cause, as they did way back in the day with the first men.
Yeah. And Aegon,
but the thing is, only Aegon
the
saw the dream. Aegon the Conqueror saw the dream, and he would pass it down only to his heirs.
Only to kings.
It was a secret thing. So when Daemon was heir, Viserys didn't tell him yet, but he told Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And Daemon didn't know what the heck he was talking about. So when he goes to Harrenhal and he sees the dream, he finally gives up his pursuit of the throne.
I can't be king.
Even when the witch Alice Rivers tells him that, he's like, "You're only a pawn in the bigger place." And he sees in the dream, he sees Rhaenyra on the throne. He sees basically possibly future. I mean, it's a dream, but
and that is the moment he became
great Daemon.
The great
who
Daemon
loves his niece wife.
And I love him. He's a really good character. But like throughout this whole thing, I just feel like, I don't know. If you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it. First off,
it's a good recommend. Again, also like mature content. But
so we also at the end of the season, I called this actually to boost up her number. Season 2.
Okay, yeah,
so,
we're going to 2. Yeah.
You know, we have some politics that happen, and I kind of want to save the really integral stuff for like people who are going to watch.
Like not to spoil everything.
Yeah,
but
talk also,
about deep thoughts.
This is season 2, end of season 2 spoilers here.
Also, we'll talk about that first, and I want to ask some question about season 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
You go first. Yeah.
I was gonna say Vermithor's VFX. So they are trying to get a bunch of like half-blood Targaryens, like not even half-bloods.
So basically, what the concept is, and again, if anyone's here still, they don't want to watch the show, or you don't, or you're okay with spoilers, or you've seen it. So basically, and the whole setup of the show, like they set it up a little bit, but you first think it's like, oh, it's just a common person perspective, but then by like episode 4, it's like we need dragon riders because we just lost Rip Rhaenys and Meleys. Great combo.
Love Rhaenys.
Great, probably my favorite female character over Rhaenyra.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Rhaenys was good.
I mean, Rhaenys was fantastic,
and I
love seeing
who never was.
I love her dragon so much.
Meleys.
Yeah,
she was the fastest.
She was the fastest, and also very big. But it's pretty interesting that like they do all this, and I kind of called that like they were gonna end up outsourcing it because
you'd have to get rid of her.
Yeah, and also like just because she's such a big player, but also because of they show, this is the reason I thought they were going to do this. They show and emphasize that Aegon had a bunch of bastard children that are like just running around. And I was like, they're definitely going to come back to that plot point at some point. But we have like just a bunch of people with white hair.
Dragon seeds.
Oh yeah. We see a bunch of like these dragon seeds come in. Anybody
Rhaenyra
who thinks
basically
that they could
goes,
be,
if you could be, you're
probably gonna die, but you might get a dragon.
Or it's like the Lord Farquhar thing. Some of you may die.
That's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because anybody who thinks they could be a Targaryen, even people who know they're not,
they just like, I could get a dragon.
Yeah, I could get a dragon.
I'm just got blonde hair.
Yeah, they all go in, and Vermithor just starts lighting them up.
You first you're like, oh, maybe it'll be chill. One guy goes up, immediately gets chomped his arm off, burned. 30 people start getting everyone basically after the first thing they're like, oh, I'm not trying this, I'm out.
And Rhaenyra just watches as they all get put up in the flames.
No, it's fine. And then we have a crazy oneer.
Yeah.
So from the moment that happens, it turns into a one take, which I would want to know how they do it, because it's like a one take with extras, obviously like a digital set and digital dragon, and the dragon moves with the camera. Of this one guy, his name is well, actually I'll keep him secret. Maybe
Yeah, keep him secret.
But his character is stuck there, and you follow the one take, and you honestly see like more death and destruction, more fires, more everything.
It's actually crazy.
And then he finally accepts it, and he's just like, I'm willing to either die or take me, and it chooses him for probably his ferocity. Also, because he does have a closer bloodline, because he is technically a more pure-blooded.
He's like a half-blood.
Because his mother was actually the daughter of Jaehaerys.
Yes.
But because she was a bit of a hoe, she was casted out, and he was like one of her more main sons. She had more sons, and then she lived a life of poverty and things. They're like outcasts, but basically like still. It makes sense. It's kind of like a dramatic irony where he is the rider for his grandfather's dragon.
Yeah, and it's really cool. There's a lot of that like irony with like family being able to ride each other's dragons. And there's something crazy that happens in season 2 that we find out that like really shakes up how dragons work, we think. But that's something that I won't spoil.
Yeah.
But like Vermithor, like the oneer that they did with him, they had to have been making that shot the entire time they were making
probably the
season
most
2.
That or the battle between Vhagar and Meleys in
very
Sunfire.
good. Was very good. Oh, by the way, Sunfire, he deserves better.
Homie got done dirty.
Yeah, love Sunfire.
He learned English for Aegon.
Literally. It's so funny. Those memes, I love those memes.
I love a good how we've sent during the duration.
English.
I can't tell you how many memes I've saved in the vault for House of the Dragon during because we only got through season 1 and I couldn't shoot him yet. And then the moment season 2 happened, I'm just like pow 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 pow.
Yeah, he blew me up with memes. But
you blew me back. Pause.
I think that I think it was really good though. And I think that like I said, if you haven't watched it yet, it's definitely worth check out House of the Dragon probably before Game of Thrones.
HBO.
Yeah, check it out. Definitely do not pirate it. Do not use a pirating service.
Who would do that?
That is bad. Do not watch it on a third-party site because Netflix, the mega corporation, deserves to have your money. So yeah, don't ever think about doing that. That's evil. Yeah.
I would want to talk a little bit about some questions on season 2.
Yeah. Go. You shoot through your questions and then we'll we can wrap up. Yeah.
But yeah.
Do our final thoughts.
So basically, because season 2 is definitely very different from season 1 a little bit. First of all, it's shorter. Yeah. Unfortunately, and that was before it started. That worried me a little bit. But basically, season 1 had 10 episodes, and that's a normal common thing with Game of Thrones is they'll have about 10 episodes. And then season 2 only had 8 episodes. And, for someone who's watched Game of Thrones, I was very scared because, when Game of Thrones, unfortunately, has the track record for being a show that's like peak of its season, and then when you drop to season 7 and 8, it gets like rough.
Yeah.
And honestly, thing I give to it is that they have less episodes. Season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones are like 7 episodes and 6 episodes. Like you cut off your big line. And so when I saw that, I was first scared. However, I will say, while yes, I feel like some of it feels a bit of like, like we could have used more episodes to explain some stuff. They were told by the studio that they would have to push one of their big budget action sequences to season 3. And also like, cause I understand studio budget stuff and we're getting 30 seasons. However, as someone who knows the entirety and the story of the Civil War that happens, they call it the Dance of Dragons. I am a little worried that, and I think we're gonna get more time jumps in the later seasons. I'm worried about how they're going to give proper time to flesh out the Civil War, and if so, maybe they're going to end it with just Rhaenyra's arc. Because
and not the Greens at all.
Well, just more like certain aspects that happen. Like, cause I know this takes place 300 years before Game of Thrones, and so like, I don't know if House of the Dragon is definitely felt more of just this one decade or time period, and not like who's on the Iron Throne like 50 years before, 100 years before, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. I think in the book though they expand a bit more on the timeline lore, and if they just want to focus on this one group, I'm okay with that. If they just want to talk about the Civil War, I'm cool with that.
I think
I'm
the
not
pacing-
a huge book reader, and I think
Yeah.
the pacing. Go ahead.
I think the pacing that they did in season 1, where it like is a slower pace of the show, and it's not
Yeah.
like trying to be like an 8-season epic. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I also think that like I think they're going to continue doing 8 episodes.
Yeah.
and that's okay. Also, it's only one book. Like I said, Fire and Blood is honestly like they've been creating some stuff that's just been. Some episodes are just like what the writers have made, and they have very few influences because it's more of like a bit of a timeline book in a sense. And it's only one book. Game of Thrones, funny enough, is 5 books, and technically they aren't done with the books. And so after like season 5 or 6, they had to just start making stuff up. But in House of Dragon, it's just one book.
You think they're gonna redo the last 2 seasons? You don't think that whenever the book comes out, they're not going to redo it?
No, I think everyone's done with it, and the book is just going to be definitively better. But in House of the Dragon,
Fair.
that's great. But also, like, we had no time jumps.
No time
in
jumps.
season 2.
Yeah.
I think it works because, from what I know, the timelines are pretty tight. Besides, like, maybe I think in season 3 and 4 we'll get some time jumps, but season 2, for this being like, in a sense, also like a setup season.
Mm-hmm.
While there's a lot of great moments in here, it is setting up like the actual like I feel like season 3 and 4 are gonna be straight up battles.
Well, season 1, the final is like a real actual final cap to the season.
Yeah.
Season 2, we don't really have
The
a final
finale of
episode.
season 2 kind of disappointed me for it being like literally like
It's basically a cliffhanger.
it was a cliffhanger. See, and I remember people watching it, and I think it's the lowest rated episode of House of the Dragon because it's like a cliffhanger episode. And you know what? I'm kind of half and half. I like the ending of
It depends on if season 3 and 4 like would knock me off my socks.
right.
Like if they do a really
If
really,
they're
really good
more-
job with season 3, I'll be happy.
If they're more mediocre, I would feel a bit more like this is what I had to wait 2-3 years for.
Yeah.
But even on that, like, House of the Dragon season 2 got me hyped for season 3. I can't even lie. It's gonna be some time. However, we don't gotta wait too long for some Game of Thrones content because one, we're gonna watch Game of Thrones soon and catch you up. But then also next year we're getting another installment in the universe called The Hedge Knight, a story of Duncan the Tall, which basically this does take place. I was just talking about it. I want to know about the Targaryen reign before Game of Thrones, like 100 years. This is basically it. So the story basically of that show, and I think hopefully it's like 8 to 10 episodes, follows this Kingsguard. And we know about the Kingsguard. We didn't talk about it too much, but the Kingsguard in Game of Thrones are like these knights that protect the royal family and the king, and they're like some of the best fighters around.
We might see what's the dragon's name? Not Vermithor. Balerion.
Balerion? No,
Yeah,
this is after Hadi.
Oh, it's after. I thought you were saying it was like
this is
before.
100 years before Game of Thrones.
Oh, I thought you said
So it follows basically because it's a book run. I think it's one book, 3. They're like short books. I have a comic book which is great. I remember I didn't even know it was Game of Thrones at the time. I remember reading it and I was like, this is a cool Marvel book. It was Game of Thrones collabing with Marvel. But basically it follows this guy called Duncan the Tall, who's like this 6'7", 7 foot tall knight who is like a hedge knight. Basically he's a tourney knight who just pays on, and he goes on these adventures with this Targaryen boy who is the heir to the Iron Throne. His name is Aegon as well. Confusing names.
Awesome.
But his name is Egg. And he's a little bald kid.
What a bag.
It's a fun story. So they call him like Duncan Egg. So it'll be a cool story. It looks great from the first couple trailers. I think because that one's like more to do about the kingdom and stuff, it's like less dragons or no dragons, and so that's gonna be cool. Going back to more political knight fighting,
which I mean, there isn't from my knowledge of Game of Thrones, that's about the time when like there really aren't any dragons around.
Yeah, during that time, because I think like at least 100 years ish after the Rhaenyra timeline and stuff and all the like Civil War stuff, one of the kings before that timeline, before Game of Thrones, somehow resulted in killing a lot of the dragons because of being he was just a terrible king.
Yeah.
And basically like ending the reign. So during that time, dragons, magic, all that is basically super rare. So until Game of Thrones, there are no dragons. So I don't think we'll see any dragons in the Hedge Knight show, which I'm not upset about because honestly, like, again, like one of my favorite things is
political
stuff, and
I bet you we see the skull of a dragon or something.
We'll see some skulls.
That'll like be a hot D reference probably.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely gonna try to keep it like as close references, but I'm excited for it. So what would you say? Last couple questions. The last question really. Favorite season, favorite episode from the season. I think we already talked about it. And what are your theories for season 3?
So, my favorite season,
1 or 2?
Man, I think my favorite season's 1.
Okay, 1.
Because of Viserys and of how like I don't know, the political like movements and stuff are really good.
I think because it's a big build up more, and season 2 is more of the payoff of season 1 build up.
Yeah, definitely. And also like I like the build up a lot. Also like episode 8 is definitely my favorite out of that out of season 1.
Yeah.
But out of season 2, I think episode 3 and the last episode are probably my favorite.
I would probably something like that. I would say I do like when you talk about it, even the sequence where the twins fight was good.
Oh yeah, very cool. That's in episode 3?
2.
I thought it's in episode 3 because that's when they're running away from. Oh, is it not?
So I think in 2 is what it is because they're still like jumpy about the rat
The twins,
catchers.
by the way, I absolutely called
Eric
it the moment they
Eric.
showed them on the thing and they split. I was like, they're gonna fight.
Yeah.
But yeah. By the way,
Wouldn't
just so y'all know, another name. There's a set of twin knights, and they're in the
Sir
royal-
Eric and Sir Eric.
Yeah,
Eric
Sir-
and Eric.
Eric and Eric, basically.
ARRYKAEER.
Eric and Eric, but it's
Eric.
that's the thing is like.
You don't know what they look like.
Yeah, it's just awful. It's
some
awful.
twisted mother must have named them that.
But the twins did a great job on screen, and then also the swordplay was really fun. Kristen Cole kind of goes on a rampage. And
We didn't even talk. We talked about him a little bit. Kristen Cole. I will say Kristen Cole's like semi, like redemption arc in a sense. He's not even redeeming. He's just understanding that like
there are forces bigger than him.
Yeah, and
I loved seeing him get humbled by seeing the dragons fight.
Yeah, because I think for me, my favorite episode of season 2 is season 4 or episode 4. It's because one, it's a good political thing, great battle sequences, even on the ground. What they do with that one effect with like I think they called him the Dust Man, where like Kristen Cole grabs him and he like falls to ash.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And also just like great fight scenes. Sorry to say rip to Rhaenys, but I think it's my favorite one of season 2. But again, season 1, great setup. I put season 1 like, I got big respect for Game of Thrones. I think the first 4 seasons are like some peak television, and so they're going to be top 4 for me. But honestly, I would put Hot D season 1 like right after that.
I think some theory crafting for like season 3.
Yeah,
I think the tide of the battle is definitely going to go in Rhaenys's favor. Rhaenyra. Yeah, she's getting more dragons. Also, Sheep Stealer is going to get
join them. Yeah. So in the books, I'll say it because I feel like it's not going to happen now. Sheep Stealer is a wild dragon, and wild dragons are just untamable dragons, mainly more around. And she gets tamed by this girl. I forget her name, but like this, like kind of like I think common girl instead of Rhaena. Rhaena never had a dragon in the show. However, I think because they'd be like, well, we got to introduce another person. They're like, Rhaena doesn't have a dragon. Let's just write her to be a dragon, and that's okay. I'm not one of those guys that
she deserves it.
I'm not one of those guys that I'm like, it's not the same as the book, dude.
Yeah,
like I don't care. It's a make changes. It's TV. Like.
For sure.
The main story is the same.
I think like Sheep Stealer is going to be cool. I think that when they go through and they're training these people, I think the guy who was boasting about being related to Targaryens,
Ulf.
Yeah, I think Ulf's going to die. And I think
you thought he was going to get him when the dragons were coming.
I thought they were going to get him because it would have been really funny.
Because it'd be funny if he just wasn't a Targaryen.
But he has what's his dragon's name?
Silverwing.
I think him and Silverwing are going to die.
Yeah. So Silverwing get some confidence in there,
man, yeah, I think they're going to... Huh?
Keep on.
I think they're going to die. I think Vermithor's probably going to die. Wow,
his
writer.
You got no faith in the newbies, man.
Well, no, if out of the two of them, Vermithor's the only one that will survive.
Silverwing and Ulf.
Yeah.
And
I think Sheepstealer will be cool. I think he's gonna look cool.
Also, like Sheepstealer is like all the way in the Vale.
Yeah, he's gonna. I bet you it takes her a couple episodes to get there, get back.
I do like that about a show. Sometimes it takes time. I hope they don't spend most of their time in this season just getting her to be a writer. Like, I don't mind, but it's like, give her an episode, 2 episodes. Episode 2, she's got the dragon. Like, let's
the only thing I could see them being hesitant on because it doesn't have a saddle.
Yeah. It'd be a little wild.
Yeah, like even like Vagar had a saddle whenever.
I think one of my predictions is, I think it's happening. I don't think we're gonna see much of Aegon 2.
No,
I think
neither do I.
I think he's gonna take a little bit of a backseat.
I think he's gonna be there in season 4.
He's gonna be a big player in season 4. Maybe it's like whatever happens in season 3, he'll come back. But it's just like he's basically being set in season 2, where it's like, you're in bad shape, dude. You gotta heal up.
I think he might end up being the silver bullet for Aemon.
Okay.
I think Aemon's gonna take over
payback
in season 3. I think he's gonna have a tight grip on the actual kingdom itself. I think it's gonna be really rough for Rhaenyra.
I'm excited to see some action sequences, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, think about it. Like
him and Daemon are gonna have to fight.
Season 4
at some point.
We have, or not season 4. Season 2, we only had like so many dragon sequences, and again, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of budget
for sure.
But like, I will say, I can say it because like they talked about it on the news and everything. Like, the supposed battle that was going to happen in the finale of season 2 is called the Battle of the Gullet, and we kind of see that set up a little bit. It's the fight between the pirates and Rhaenyra's navy.
Oh so yeah, I love the pirates. By the way,
they were
cool.
fun. I love seeing Tyland. He was the Lannister he's a twin brother. Jason Lannister, who's more in charge in the air, but Tyland is like sent because he's the master of ships to go meet with the pirates, and he's just getting like the worst treatment.
His ass kicked.
He gets beat up. He fights in the mud. He has to like sleep with like 60 women, and it gets him all pregnant. And then he has to go to war. I will say, Employee of the Month.
Employee of the Month. I that's an awesome way to put it. But I think that Aegon is gonna learn and become a more well-rounded character in season 4. I don't know. It's really exciting knowing that we haven't even seen the craziest action scene yet with the dragons. Like, it's gonna get crazier for sure because
there's more dragons now.
They had to put it off. They had to put off the.
There's more dragons. There's more fighting. More, like the words of the Targaryens. Their house name, Fire and Blood. Like Fire and Blood, man. It's what's gonna happen. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad you enjoyed Hot Tea. So, like, really, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I think I'm gonna like Game of Thrones a lot.
I think you're gonna like it more. I don't want to toot a torn, but it's more of the same. Where it's like great political stuff, stronger, more in depth of other houses. Because in this one you get like Velaryon, Hightower, Targaryen.
We don't really understand too much about the Rivermen, even. Like, we kind of get the basics of what's going on.
In the more phase of it,
yeah.
And we'll watch like a prequel thing, but basically, like, bit of a spoiler. In Game of Thrones, the very first episode sets up after basically the end of the Targaryen dynasty, where there's a rebellion that happens, and basically like the great houses have overthrown the Targaryens, and they're kind of like in exile, and so the great houses are like Baratheon, Stark, Lannister, Tully, and we haven't learned much about those guys before. We learned a little bit about the Rivermen in season 2 of Hot D, but we'll learn a bit more about them in Game of Thrones, and I'm just excited for you to meet these characters.
Yeah, I think the one I think the character I'm gonna like the most is the little guy,
Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah,
he's my favorite character in the entire show.
He seems to be, because I know his story. I've watched his entire story.
Yeah.
Already, like on like a video. Not like way before. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember really enjoying his.
He's
story
a very
arc.
Sophisticated character, because like we said,
I cannot wait to see it.
He's a character that is not physically strong, but he has to use his wits. And he's a wild card.
Yeah, I love when he slaps the king. I've seen that clip.
I know I've struck a king. Has my hand fall from my wrist?
Yeah, I can't wait for that. But I think it's gonna be a fun ride.
Yeah, so we'll definitely keep you posted on that. We got other stuff also planned. I think we're gonna try to do some more episodes like that again. October 7th.
We're gonna try to get some more people on the podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, please watch October 7th. We already have the other mic. We're gonna, like I said, we're we've got stuff in the works. We're still trying to figure it out, and we're also still doing school.
We're also just two dudes who like to do this as a hobby. We're not getting no money for it. We just like talking about movies. We like that you guys get to listen to us and like talking about movies. And we're just building it out, man. We're just glad to, for like the millionth time, bringing it back every single month or every other month. But
yeah, for sure. And also, like, definitely go check out our letterboxes. Mine hasn't been updated in a minute.
Mine's been updated like every couple of days, but I see a movie like a day.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything in a minute. Also, my mic is like super loud. I'm gonna have to go through and like actually fix all this audio. It's gonna be annoying.
It's like, thank you guys.
It's just like guys, yeah. But yeah, so once again, thank you guys. Please go check out our letterboxes.
Yeah. I've been Cooper.
I've been Christian.
And this has been the Real
Deal Podcast.
We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you.